Hey kids, physical geography, North Africa, Southwest Asia, new area that we're talking about. Remember, we grouped these areas of the world together primarily because of the religious similarities, Islam being the main religion of the area. So we grouped them together, and that's how we're going to go about learning this area of the world. So this is a fairly long PowerPoint, so I'll try to break it up into two parts. Make sure you watch it. Make sure you learn it so you can quiz on it, stuff like that. All right, you can see on this map here, physical map of the area we're talking about. It stretches from the Western Sahara over here in the western part of North Africa, all the way through Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, down in the Sudan, and then across the Red Sea, onto the Arabian Peninsula, and into Iran, Iraq, Turkey, places like that. Some of the stuff like that we've talked about, we add Afghanistan and possibly Pakistan into this mix. But again, not everybody does, but we're going to go ahead and do that when we look at this stuff. But you can see the area that we're talking about right here, all surrounding the Mediterranean, the Red Sea, this area right there. Latitude lines, the Middle East versus the United States, and you can see kind of where we all lie as far as similarities. So the temperatures, type of land, the vegetative regions are going to be somewhat similar here, especially in Texas and the southern part of the United States compared to North Africa and the Middle East. Population density, you can see the darker colors, the red and purple, where the majority of people live in these specific countries, and to no one's surprise, most of the folks live around bodies of water. Water is a very valuable resource over there. It's a scarce resource, and the majority of people in this area and around the world live near bodies of water. Anybody know what this right here is? We should. This is the Nile River. You can see Egypt's population, the majority, live right there along the Nile River, the lifeline of Egypt. North Africa, mostly desert, very dry. Water is a very valuable resource. Just to the south of these countries, and where we talk about people living in North Africa, the Sahara Desert roams. It's the world's largest desert, 3,000 miles across, and then 1,200 miles north to south. So it's a very vast area. Temperatures can be extremely high, 136 degrees, and also very low, below freezing in the wintertime. We've got some pictures here, sand dunes. If you want to watch these, you can kind of pause them when we go through it on your own to check these things out. The Nile River, the longest river in the world, over 4,000 miles, lies in most of Egypt. Provides irrigation for the crops. You can see, you saw on that population density map, and most of the people live there. 95% depend on it for their water. Very, very important part of the structure of Egypt. You can see it starts down here like Victoria and works up as the blue and the white Nile comes together, and then goes out the Mediterranean Sea, or into the Mediterranean Sea. More pictures. Cairo, Egypt, the most populated city in the Middle East. Cairo's in Egypt, is the capital. Very, very crowded place. 17 million plus people in a very kind of small area, so it's a very, very crowded place. The Aswan High Dam, built by the Egyptians, always trying to control the floods of the Nile River. Try to time them, try to be able to control them mostly. The first dam was built in 1902. Didn't last very long, so years later, 4 miles up the river, they built the Aswan High Dam number 2, created in 1970, and built Lake Nasser, which is in the southern part of Egypt. The positives: gives the farmers a regular supply of water, holds floodwaters. You can have more than one harvest by controlling these waters. Increased the farmland by 50%, and also provided them with tons of hydroelectricity. The negatives? Well, the negatives are pretty simple. During construction, people have to move away. They're displaced from their home. Destroyed some of Egypt's treasures. Decreased the fertility of the soil, meaning the silt wasn't deposited like it normally was in natural flows. They got to use artificial fertilizers now. And then the salt content rises. At one point, the flood waters would wipe away the silt. The salt in the soil, but now without these flood waters raging, the salt kind of settles on the soil, causing it to the levels to rise up. Other diseases have increased. The water's calmer now, doesn't flow so rapidly. The floods don't happen, so now mosquitoes and other nasty insects can breed easy. And then gallons of fresh water are lost yearly because of evaporation in the lake. So there's some negatives to the dam and also positives. Just like anything else in nature, there's going to be good and bad. There's a satellite view. View from the side. Southwest Asia. Lands vary. Green coastal plains, the snow-peaked mountains, deserts in between. There forms a land bridge between Europe, Asia, and Africa, where it all kind of comes together. The Arabian Peninsula, much of the peninsula is covered by plains. Few activities using land because it's mostly barren. Okay, some hills, some ridges, dry riverbeds. Oh, sorry, there's my phone. Not a lot of water, not a lot of rain. Some of the nomadic people of the peninsula travel around to search for what water they can find. Wadis, or dried riverbeds, basically. The peninsula itself is a gateway for many strategic waterways. The Suez Canal on the Sinai Peninsula, major trade route between Asia, Europe, North Africa, cuts through the Mediterranean down into the Red Sea. The Strait of Hormuz is the entrance to the Persian Gulf. Gets you up to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and the Iraqi oil fields. Very, very important waterway that a lot of folks would like to be in control of, for sure. So here we got a picture. Here's the Strait of Hormuz over here. This is the area that Iran, for I guess a couple years ago or last year, was talking about trying to shut down with their naval forces. And obviously, if they do that, with all this oil coming out of Iraq and Kuwait and the side of Saudi Arabia, it would be a huge issue. But it never came to that. The Anatolian Peninsula is up there. It's the beginning of the Asian continent. It's on Turkey. Large plateau, supports lots of grazing animals and agriculture. The Bosporus and Dardanelles Strait passes between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean up kind of northwest of Turkey, and there's a huge trade route from Russia to Asia. Here's the map again. This is Turkey we're looking at. Here's Anatolia. Okay, Istanbul right here, and here's the Dardanelles and the Bosporus leading into the Black Sea. So these are the two parts that a lot of you struggled on our physical map finding. There they are. Okay. We're going to start right there for this one. This is part 1, Physical Geo of North Africa, Southwest Asia. Part 2 coming up.